Welcome back to another episode of Recharging the Human Battery. I haven't been here for a couple weeks. Was a little family time in Mexico, but we're here on AM 950 radio, and this is Recharging the Human Battery. I'm your host, Dr. Stefano Sinicropi. It's good to be back in town and speaking with you guys. So I thought this week I would do something a little bit different. On this show, we tend to talk about all kinds of different health topics. You heard some great stuff from Mandy last week, and we're always going back and forth. But I thought today I'd share something that I've been sharing more often, which is kind of my story and my philosophy about how I decided to go down this path of integrative health, of changing my mentality on the way I look at things, about really personal discovery and coming out of what I call an ignorant phase into sort of a more learning phase. I don't want to be one of these people that spends my time defending what I know, but rather trying to amass as much knowledge as I can to help my fellow human beings. And in my arena, that's more about health and wellness and, being resilient and things of that nature. And so I want to share a little bit about my story, which I recently talked about on a keynote address to a bunch of business leaders across the country, and what led to me deciding to start the podcast, start the integrative health clinics, and then eventually write the book, which is called Wellness at the Speed of Light, which comes out here in June. And it all stems from this. So I'll give you a little bit of a preview about what we're going to talk about on the other side of the break. Listen, I've talked to tens of thousands of people in my life. Most of that, obviously, is the patients, that I see. And so many people just do not feel well. I mean, this is something that is just an overriding theme, because this is really what pushed me into going down this pathway. I hear it all the time. My friends, my family, like something wasn't quite right. But what really alarmed me was just sitting across from people day after day and them telling me their stories. Now, of course, I started as a technician, right? As a surgeon, physician, technician. We obviously, you want me to do really good spine surgery on you, otherwise you wouldn't be coming to me for help. But the more you hear the stories, I start saying, something is wrong, something is wrong. And so this idea about people just not feeling well really bothered me. It really got under my skin. Something was just not right. And so despite the fact that my career was taking off and, the clinics were busy and our organization was just growing like a weed, there was something that just didn't sit right with me. Like, it's hard to get like deep satisfaction from stuff and just like, by compartmentalizing other things that you see and just putting it somewhere else and saying, what, that's okay. That's not really my responsibility. I'm just going to stick to, cutting on people, fixing them, doing the best I can, getting them back to their lives as far as their spine condition is concerned. But just hearing all these stories just really sparked something deeper in me. I mean, there were times, honestly, I would hear stories about people that would make me depressed. I don't want to leave my clinics feeling depressed, even though, like we were doing really good stuff as far as spine surgery, but yet something was wrong. So on the other side of the break, I'm just going to try to go through a little bit of my story. I'm just going to frame it kind of the way the book is framed in some ways, and just tell you some of the lessons that I learned. And then these lessons are not just for, your health and your wellness, but it's just about having resilience and fighting for what you believe in and just not listening to the naysayers and saying, you know what, I'm going to make a change. I'm going to make a difference. And that goes for our health, our wellness, but it also just goes for our lives and, complacency and accepting average and just not feeling well well and not feeling well about where you're going in life. That's not okay to me, and that's really what I'm trying to help people with. So on the other side of the break, we'll pick it up. We're on AM 950 radio. This is Recharging the Human Battery. Okay, welcome back to Recharging the Human Battery. I'm your host, Dr. Stefano Sinicropi. We are on AM 950 radio, and, to me, this is a special episode because, again, a lot of times we just talk about all these different topics here and there, but people always ask me sort of, what's your origins? Why are you doing this? That's the number one question that I get. You're a spine surgeon. You've done this and that. Like, why? Why this? Why the passion? Why the fire? Why be out there? Why are you putting yourself out there? It's risky. It's not your lane. Etc. And so this is really something that I'm going to be talking about a lot more. I'm going to be really trying to inspire others to go down this path, again, not just in health and wellness, but in their own lives, so that they just say, you know what, if there's something that's bothering you, if there's something that you're unease with, I think, just like I said, you're just putting it in the cabinet and just trying to throw it away and saying, it's fine, I don't have to worry about that. Let me not think about that. I'm just going to stick in my lane, or I'm just going to stay, I feel okay, so I'm just going to deal with this, or my career's okay. My relationship with my family and my kids are okay. My relationship with my mom and dad, or grandma, grandpa, whoever it is that whoever that may be, it's just kind of like just that feeling of just being okay. It's not where, I want to be in life. That's not what leads to, a great life, for ourselves. We have to do what makes us really come alive. And to be honest with you, what makes me come alive is seeing other people, getting out of those ruts, whether it's health or wellness or careers or whatever. That really is my passion. We all find different passion. Your passion might be seeing, that, new, planetarium go up in your community, whatever it is. It's different for everybody. But again, I just want to really spur people to just follow their, that seed is inside, that seed that's trying to grow, that we spend so much time suppressing. And it just doesn't make sense. And again, in my case, it was just about seeing the just overall dis-ease, right? We talk about the term disease, right? It's dis-ease. So just seeing so much of that on so many fronts, mental and physical and spiritual and emotional, all these different things, it bugs me to such a great degree that then I decided to do it. So, this 2025 last year was just a big year for me. And people might think, oh, you get all these milestones, it's a big year, you've made it, quote unquote. I hit my 10,000th surgery last year. People say, oh, that's great. That's amazing. You get the title, you get the big practice, but yet this all still comes with a deep dissatisfaction because people are not well. And so I want to be able to help as much as possible. And it was just such a epiphany for me a couple, of years ago. It was in those quiet moments, really, between, the seeing people and doing spine surgeries and this and that, like, where you just keep talking to people. You start asking yourself hard questions. Am I really fixing the people? Right? They're coming to me, and my mentality was, how do I fix this person? Right? How did we, what was the shift between how do I fix this person? Right? Thinking about it in a more kind of an engineering way, to how can I help this person overall with their lifestyle? How can I improve their, let's say, their joy quotient, which is something I talk about in the book quite a bit. Now, what's a joy quotient? A joy quotient is what I believe should be, the fifth vital sign. What is that? What does that mean? A joy quotient? Well, what that means is, if I, as a provider, a healer, right? That's what we're supposed to be. am seeing people, and yes, maybe we can fix their spine or take that disc herniation out or do something. But I think one of our big jobs should be that we should do everything we do should be in the context of elevating people's joy quotient. So how joyful are they in this tiny blip that we call life? Right, like, because otherwise what's the difference? What is the, what's the point? And so I really, had to make a huge change. And the only way to make that change is really look yourself in the mirror, say, am I doing the things that are really helping people, to overcome their overall challenges? And again, the criticism might be, well, you're a spine surgeon, we want you to be the best spine surgeon you can. Why these other things? Well, I'll tell you why, because they're in front of my face. They're right there. They're right in front of me. And I have this person, and maybe they are not willing to seek care in places where they can find this type of help. So if I can give it to them because of my background, my experience, what I've been through in my own life, if I can help them with their resilience, if I can help them with their overall health, but if I could also become an expert in these other fields, then I can really come up with not just a plan for their spine, but a life plan for them so that they can put those pieces back together, because people are absolutely, broken out here. And, I wanted to do something, about it. So I want to go back a little bit before I even tell you about, when, I made that, like, really had the epiphany that I knew that I need to make a change. I just want to take you back to just understand a little bit, about me, so that you understand, like, why I'm just coming from such a different background. So the stuff that I have seen and everyone's different. Every single person listening to this is very, very different. But I think some of the things that I kind of went through makes me in a really good position to understand humans across a very, very broad spectrum. Okay, because I'll tell you why. So I'm going to just take a walk back. So just a little bit about me. So I had just a really interesting start to life. So I'm biracial. And I actually was born to a white mom who was my biological mother, but she could not have me around her own family. So it's just the craziest story. So she actually moved down to the Bronx, lived with my aunt, and had the baby there, and then gave me up for adoption. So I was adopted by these Italian immigrant parents. My first language was Italian. A lot of you guys don't know that about me. And I do have to work on my Italian again. I get good after 2 weeks. Don't worry, for those of you that speak Italian. Don't throw darts. I can get there when I need to get there. But regardless, went through this whole litany, and I'm not going to go into this. This is all in the book of going through really hard challenges. You just imagine 1970s, right? You're this biracial kid adopted by Italian immigrants. You live in an Italian neighborhood. You can just imagine the racism and all the stuff that I had to deal with. Okay. I talk about it some in the book. It's just one chapter. I don't go on and on about it because it's just one small part of what I was, but it just brought a resilience. But what I can say, I mean, I think that the positive thing, about all that is I started having a good look into human nature, goodness and badness and all these other things. And I was always a really deep thinker as a kid. What's the meaning of life? What's the point? What are people trying to do? And I saw suffering in my family, and I saw, and I felt suffering myself, and I saw what my parents were going through. And I saw all these things, and I really internalized that. And I use a lot of these lessons that I learned. And I'm sure you guys all do. It's just sometimes we don't think about it. These are things that I didn't really talk about a lot until I decided to do a deep introspection of myself so that I can be better for other people. Because until, we really, do the, kind of the live autopsy, like David Goggins says, of ourselves, we can't really be our best, for other people. And this really upbringing really showed me a different thing. But the big part of it which really helped me, was that my parents couldn't have been, more loving, and they just wanted me to be successful. They had a huge chip on their shoulder, right? Because they had this adopted kid, and they, like they were undergoing like racial comments and blah, blah, blah. So they wanted me to be successful. So my dad was like, this kid is just going to just like it. Like if I wasn't like super successful, I don't think that he could have even tolerated that. It was intolerable, not possible. And that is a big story, like in immigrant families in general. But now you throw fuel on the fire, and you could see. So my dad actually used to make me read the dictionary 2 hours a day, like non-negotiable. Every day I had to sit there in front of him, right? And he did not have an education. He dropped out of school and grammar school, and he made me read the dictionary in front of him 2 hours every single day before I could go out and play with friends. You know who else was doing that? Nobody, just me. And I really, it started to impart a discipline in me. But what they also taught me is that I could be whatever I wanted to be. Don't worry about what the other kids were saying. Don't worry about your background, where you come from, this and that. You can be whatever you want to be. And this is a principle that I share with young people, and I talk about it when I give keynotes and stuff like that. But it's really an important concept of this, like not limiting ourselves. And so having this like more open mind eventually translated into being able to really make a really just be able to see what was directly in front of me, which was the disease in our population, and not just say, well, I have a good life, I'm a spine surgeon, who cares? They could just deal with it, and I'm going to do my thing, but rather just open up my mind and speak about it, and be somewhat at times controversial, because it comes down to the background. And again, we could do this live autopsy for all you guys, and I'm sure it will pull out all kinds of great stuff from your childhood, and then how it translates into the way you see the world. But when I was 13 years old, I was sitting at a table at my uncle's house. There was a judge sitting right in front of me, and I've never met this guy. I have no idea who this guy was. Apparently he's a big deal in that neighborhood. And so we're just sitting down, and I just started talking about, hey, I want to go to med school. And I was all excited already at 13. I just want to help people, like that kind of stuff. And he looked me dead in the eye, and he basically said, hey, he's like, kid, you got to be really smart to go to medical school. That's it. Just a complete judgment. Just look me right in the eye. And I could tell you, I think about that almost every single day. I've recently started talking about it. I just did a post on social media like a week ago or so. But, you can decide with those moments what direction you have to go in. And this is just literally this is one of the stories. I just had to go over and over. And I know those of you that are listening to this, you've had to go through these kinds of things, but it's about where you take rejection. It's just a signpost, right? You can go left or you can go right. And I chose to go in the direction of that, fueling my fire and wanting, even becoming even more hungry, right? So I show up at Columbia Medical School, talking to all the kids. I'm this kid. I went, I stayed in the Bronx. I went to Fordham University. That's a whole other discussion. But anyway, got in, did well on the MCAT, got into med school, went there. Of course, almost all these people are from fancy schools, from the Ivy League, Stanford, Yale, Harvard, all these other places. And here is the kid from the Bronx, still in New York City. All these people telling me, they have fancy parents, people have yachts, they got all kinds of stuff. And so, of course, I have imposter syndrome at the time. But instead of just saying, I don't belong here, I don't know if this is right for me, let me do something else. No, it lit a huge fire in me and allowed me really to be very, very successful. And again, it's the way we take what's happened to us and then flip it around and do something about it, right? We need to do something about it. And by doing something about it, we could do bad stuff and let it like just kind of ruin our path and trajectory, or we can use it to, like really fuel the fire. And so again, went through that, and then eventually, got through med school. Was one time where I was interviewing for residency. I just remember, I'm not going to say the name. It was one of the Ivy League schools. And, I was talking about my upbringing in the Bronx, and I was just going through these things. And it actually was interesting because the person that was interviewing me was a psychiatrist, this female psychiatrist. And after our discussion, she looked at me again. I don't know why this keeps happening to me, by the way, but she looked at me again and said, hey, she's like, yeah, with your background story, I don't know if this is kind of the right setting for you. I don't know if like these are like quote unquote your people. I don't even know what that means. Okay. You could, I mean, I'll take whatever. We could go down different paths, but I was obviously very discouraged in the moment. I could tell you, I fought right back, and I just like really questioned her at the time. I was like, well, what do you mean? And she just kind of backtracked, and we went forward. And I actually got waitlisted at that school, and then I got in. Which is interesting. So this, the person that they thought maybe wouldn't belong there, they still let me into that med school. Obviously, I didn't go there. It left a little bit of a bitter taste in my mouth. I'm sorry for residency. I went somewhere else. Anyway, so moving along. How does that all translate? So had to go through all this stuff and then, flip over into then becoming a spine surgeon. So again, I'm telling you all this because I want you to understand that, sometimes like this fight that we are having right now, the fight that I'm getting into right now, and that is the fight against insurance companies, the fight against the status quo, even the fight against the established medical system. People look at me and say, "Why are you fighting this battle? It's an unwinnable battle. You can't win it." Right? It's not winnable. First of all, I completely disagree with that. I think if we develop enough of an army of people like myself, like Mandy, and like so many other people that are stepping up and saying something is broken right now, right? That's why I tell these stories of resilience and getting over stuff, because we can make a difference. We can make an impact, right? How many things have people said is impossible that are now like commonplace, right? I don't have to tell you about like Roger Bannister's 4-minute mile, and I could go, this happens with everything. Simone Biles, all these people, they're breaking crazy barriers. They said it's not possible. And I've heard this so many times in my life. I know you guys have. And again, this is not just for your own health and wellness. This is for yourselves, right? It's just about being resilient. The difference between being resilient and not being resilient is the difference between having, a perception of a happy and satisfying life and being absolutely miserable because you let all those impossible things, all those no's, all those things. Oh, I'm not gonna be, I can't make it. I can't do it. I'm from here. I'm this color. I'm this, race. Oh, the world is against me. That is a horrible way to live. And this is what I try to teach. And again, I'm trying to wrap this all up into kind of just a model about how we can approach our health, our wellness, ourselves, because again, a resilience is a huge pillar of just being mentally well. Right? You guys know it. You yourself may be very resilient. You might not be, but if just think about the people in your lives, those that are resilient tend to do dramatically better than those that fall apart the second something goes wrong, right? And we all know that. And sometimes it just feels like everything's snowballing, everything's going wrong at the same time. That's just part of life. It's what we do with it. So anyway, I'm just going to fast forward, and then I want to get into kind of the some of the thoughts on the health system. Again, we've done this before, and what is the problem and what we need to do really to change it. So anyway, so I get into, and I just want to tell you about impossible again. So I get into practice, and practice is going well. And again, just built a great practice, really had some great partners. We started building this great practice, and lo and behold, one day we're told that some of our insurance company contracts are getting dropped. Okay. Now it turns out it was just a financial thing. And this these companies were dropping private practices because they wanted to renegotiate and do all this stuff. But lo and behold, like we were done, right? Our practice was done. In fact, one of the partners at our practice got up and left. He's like, we're done. It's over. Okay. We got a hole in the ship. I'm going to get off the Titanic on those lifeboats. You guys can have at it. You guys could be the captain, or those, in the movie Titanic, the guy's playing the violin. That's you. You do that. I'm out. So at that moment, we took what was an impossible task, because anybody from the outside, we could have hired consultants. They'd say, you're done, dissolve, sell yourself to a hospital, do something. And we said, no, we're not going to do that. So we dug deep. We ended up doing all of these deals with hospital systems here in town, and the practice literally exploded, right? At one point, we were down to 2 practicing providers. Now we are at 9. So we were able to take something that I'm just telling, like people all over the place. You got to do this, you got to do that. I said, no, that's not what we're going to do, because we cannot then stick with our mission of being able to really provide patient choice the way we want to, allow our doctors to practice the way that we want to. We just weren't comfortable going into those constraints. So lo and behold, the impossible is possible. Okay. So that's just a little bit of the background. I literally can have a 10-hour show, like just talking about like stuff we've gone through. And you guys could all have 10-hour shows. Start your own show, start your own podcast, come on this radio station, start talking about your own stories. There's so much, to learn. So anyway, so we got this healthcare system, right? So I'm seeing all these sick people. People are not doing well. They're not happy. It's over and over and over again. This isn't like every third patient. This is like a lot, like a very large percentage of people. If you really dig in, they're not happy about some aspect of their health. And some are just quite frankly broken. Okay, we have a 4.9 trillion. I always quoted 4.4. We're now up to 4.9 trillion US spend on healthcare, mostly on sick care. That's staggering amount of money, but yet we are sicker than ever. How many more commercials could there possibly be when you're watching that sporting event about drugs? Do you see your family members getting better? Probably not. And this is the problem. We really have a sick care system. Okay, we're really not focusing on these people that are trapped in a system that promotes bad eating, promotes bad psychological practices, like, for example, scrolling on cat videos all day on Twitter. There's literally studies that have come out recently. I'm gonna just dumb this down. It basically, if you're scrolling on 5-second videos, you become stupider. Sorry, I'm not trying to offend anybody. You literally become dumber if you're scrolling on those videos, period. You go look it up yourselves, use your Chat GPT or Gemini or whatever you use, start pulling up those studies. We could do a whole entire episode on it. It's fascinating. It's just dopamine hits. It makes you dumber. Keep that in mind. But that's not it. It's everything. It's the ingredients in our foods. It's the pollution in our air. It's the exposure to microplastics in our foods, the 5G towers. I can go on and on and on. I mean, we are just crushing our biological, makeup and our setups. This is why we are not well. And that's one part of it. And there are reasonable solutions to that. Reasonable. I'm not saying we have the cure-all for everything. But on the flip side, the traditional medical system just takes you in and really takes most people seriously when you get really sick. Obviously, car accidents, stuff like that. I'm even talking about that when you have a massive heart attack or when you have a huge stroke. We're actually really good at saving people's lives doing that. It's fascinating. Like, I'm obsessed with that stuff. It is amazing. I mean, we can save lives, but like being 52 years old, having a massive stroke that possibly could have been prevented. Okay. And when I say possible, like a pretty high likelihood that it could have been prevented. And you end up staring at a brick wall in a nursing home with no window for the next 20 years. I don't think this is what anyone is really angling for. This is what our society has become. And I've said this, before about the whole sick care model. I listen to these doctors. I'm like in the doctor's lounge and I'm listening to people and they're talking about like amazing stuff. It's amazing. And like, don't get me wrong. And I'm actually going to talk about this more. I want to do doctors are some of the most dedicated people like I've ever seen. I hear stories after stories. I've had so many of them on my podcast. These people want to help. If they're in the right fields, they're helping. And some other things, maybe they're not having the entire tools, especially when we come to, like preventative medicine and integrative health. That's a whole other story. But they're sitting there and they're talking about, hey, this person's sodium is this, their creatinine is this, they're going to dialysis, and I'm talking about patients in the ICU. And that's all great. And and people have infections and they're coming off of like I said, like vascular, like just horrible, issues, and they're having bypasses and all this stuff. And that's great that we can keep people alive. We can keep people living. We can give them another day to be with their grandkids. Okay. Not always. Some people do expire, but we can save way more people than we can before. That's not the question. I get it. The next question would be, well, what if their sodium was, what if we did this? But that's great. And I think obviously you need to answer those questions when you're trying to treat these sick people. But I think we're not asking the other questions. And I do. I will randomly stop people when they're talking, and I say, "Hey, have you ever thought of this?" And they think I'm just like some crazy doc. What happened to you? Did you inhale too much anesthetic, today during your last surgery? No. And that's this question. The question is this: why are they here? Why is this person here? I get it. They had a heart attack. That's not my question. Why are they here? What was their lifestyle? What toxins were they exposed to? What foods did they eat? What emotional traumas have they undergone? Right? What spiritual practices did they had? Like, what did they do to prevent themselves to get out of here? But more importantly, what's this formula for getting them in the ICU? I can tell you that in the in America and in like now most westernized countries, we've got that formula down pat. We're really good at making people sick, like really, really good at making ourselves sick and then promoting behaviors that make our fellow man sick. And it's a huge problem. So I think asking these questions. All right. So not going too far, down that road. The question, we have to ask the right questions. Why? So I'm going to just go back to everything I said before, because I want to just tie this all together. Unfortunately, this is a show. People always said, hey, you can't fix this, you can't fix that, it's too hard, it's impossible, you're not the right guy, you don't look the right way, you're not from the right, all that stuff. So all that translated into when people say now, well, this is just the way it is, right? Our healthcare system is doing great. We can save all these people, we can prolong life, even though our life expectancy, you should look at that chart. It's not really going anywhere, right? But what we can, all these people that are getting sick, so instead of maybe they're living that long, maybe people are living to 82 or whatever it is, but maybe 20 years of that is awful. It's horrible. Is that what you want for yourselves and for your families? No. So I think that on the flip side, listen, we spend 90% of our dollars, right, on sick care. What about a world where those of us that do have the titles, that do have the microphone, right? That's why we cannot be complacent. That's why I want to stand up and say, listen, we can do better, because the whole point of this is for people to be joyful and to live better lives. That's the point, right? And are we doing that right now? I want, and this is more than possible, right? Just starting this way. I want physicians to start thinking before they go into a room, not what prescription do I need to give the patient? What surgery do I need to offer the patient? Those are all very important things. And obviously, if they have serious conditions, that's what they need. And I'm very grateful for the doctors and having that expertise. But I want them to start thinking, how can I help this person to lead a better life? How can I get their joy quotient up? Okay. And the way to do that is to get out of our silos. This is the medical system. And again, we're all in silos. You guys are in silos, right? If every morning you start with a Frappuccino and 3 donuts, right? You're in a silo. It's not a good one, right? So we're all in these, but anyway, coming out of these silos and just rethinking, reframing the entire healthcare system and what the point is. Right now, when we say healthcare, it's really how do we manage sick people? Period. That is what the focus is. Now, yes, there is a very much a growing movement. Some of it is very positive. Some of it is BS. I try to cut through that noise for you guys on my stuff. There is very much a growing health and wellness movement. A lot of them are just trying to sell you stuff, may or may not help you. A lot are really taking this on and taking that Olympic torch and trying to get it to the finale and get you guys better. And so if we can just change, number one, our mindset, the way that we approach patient care. If I can move the needle an inch on this, if I can move just a few other physicians, practitioners, whoever out there has a lot of people that they kind of take care of, or even if they have one, if I can change this mentality just by saying how I changed, how I was in an ignorant phase, which I talk about a lot in the book when I didn't know all these things, then that's a start. How can I really help this patient? And again, we're not thinking that way. I wasn't thinking this way. Yes, I was thinking, how can I help them by doing an operation on them or sending them for an injection or whatever I was doing? But I wasn't thinking, how can I overall make the quality of the person's life better by understanding things about them that I would not have previously, perceived. So that's step one. The next step is really to then become educated in things that we are not taught, for example, in our training. And so we really have to go outside the box, right? So when I made that decision, that's how the book opens up. It was a random Thursday night. I'm sitting there in my gym. I'm getting more and more mad. I'm feeling all like, conflicted. I don't know what's going on. And I just made a post about how I'm going to do this podcast, Wellness at the Speed of Light. And we're going to just start getting experts on, and we're going to start figuring out what in the world is right and what in the world is wrong, and how can we fix it. Honestly, when I put that out there, no clue what I was going to do. I didn't even know how to, I had no idea, how to even run a pod, what software to use. Nothing. I knew nothing about it. But I was like, if I commit and I publicly just put myself out there, I'm going to do it, right? And that was around the same time that I had already made the decision to start the clinics and do these other things and go out there. These types of transformations, again, it's not about I don't even want to talk necessarily about it, but I want others to transform, because there's so many brilliant doctors out here and other practitioners. I talk to them all the time. If they just would get out of their silos, the things that they could do to help, because this is the only way it's going to change. It has to come internally, like it came from me, and we have to do a deep dissection, and we have to think to ourselves, are we doing everything that we can to really make the difference in people's lives? Okay. So that is the transformation. And I could go on. I mean, obviously I lay this all out in the book. And if you see what I talk about on social and this and that, I lay it all out. That's one side of the coin. Now it's you. I'm going to talk to you guys, right? Because I'm not going to let you off the hook. Everything in that book is about you guys becoming the CEO of your own health. You've got to take your own wheel, right? Whatever. I know a lot of you are not religious out here or whatever, right? Jesus, take the wheel, or however you want it. But you got to take the wheel. You got to take the wheel on your own lives. You cannot turn over your life randomly to people, even when they are supposed experts. You have to do the research. You have to hire people in your own department. Right? If you have a heart problem, you have to hire the right cardiologist for you. Again, obviously they have to have the credentials. They have to be good. They have to vibe with you, but they have to be the person that you feel is going to help you the most. And that takes work on your part. You can't just get referred there. Oh, this is where my primary reference where I'm going to, no, you've got to find that team that is going to be able to best support you. And so that is really taking control of your own lives. You have to start really doing research on what's available out there, right? Some of you are super anti-Western medicine, but you really do need to learn about Western medicine, because you're really missing, and you might be really sick. So I don't recommend not. No. And some of you are hardcore Western medicine and think everything else is a sham, but yet there are so many things out here, like the biohacking we talk about all the time, and all these other things, Eastern medicine, there's all energy healing. I could go on and on, but just really making yourselves experts on you. Who is more of an expert than you on you? So this is the message. We have to change on both ends. We have to change on the provider end. Again, we have to change our mentality, and we have to change our knowledge base. We have to understand what's out there. We have to understand what's possible. And this is the way we are going to make a change. This is the way that preventative healthcare is really going to explode in this country. And I mean real preventative healthcare. I don't mean coming in for a visit and having a normal blood pressure and a normal blood glucose and being given a clean bill of health. Oh, you're great. You're perfect. And you feel terrible. That's not the way we're really preventing you from going down those bad paths. Again, education. I literally have stacks of textbooks in my house. It's all over the place. My wife hates it. It's a big mess about topics that literally if you would have asked me 5 years ago about me having books on this topic, I would have literally laughed at you. But yet I was able to have those epiphanies and go there. On the patient side, you got to really take the wheel. You got to take control of your own health. You've got to have resilience. For those of you that have suffered a long time, take the message of what, like happens to you when you've been told, no, this is impossible, this is whatever. I'm telling you, there are solutions to most things. There, like that unwellness that you're feeling, that, both physical and psychological, there really are solutions, but they may not be in the traditional medical system. There may be a whole host of other things that can literally change your life. And it starts with diet and sleeping better and taking care of your psychological, emotional, and spiritual health, and so on. So as you can hear, I mean, I couldn't be more passionate about this stuff. I'm going to keep, talking about it. I'm sure, because I didn't have enough time to really dive deeply into all these different topics. You're wanting more, and we can certainly get into it. Leave your comments down below if there's something specifically you want me to talk about for an entire episode, because honestly, everything I've talked about is an entire other episode. Okay, it just depends on kind of what you guys want to hear. So on the other side of the break, I'm going to give you my 7 laws for living a full life. Take it for what it is. We'll see you on the other side. This is AM 950 radio, and this is Recharging the Human Battery. Okay, we're back to Recharging the Human Battery Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Stefano Sinicropi. We are on AM 950 radio, and, I'm pretty fired up right now because I love talking about this stuff. I love talking about, epiphanies and changes and getting out of silos and resilience and helping you guys really put your lives back together, both in a health and wellness fashion, but just in anything. And this is really, my passion. I have so many talks coming up on the topic of resilience and just leading people's best lives, and on the healthcare system and this and that. I'm going to spend a lot of my time and then doing the book tour this year. It's going to be, I'm so excited about 2026, but I'll be more excited if you guys are doing better, if you guys are taking your health and wellness seriously, because without that, everything else is it's not going to go well, and you're just not going to be able to live your best life. So on that note, I'm going to leave you with my 7 laws of really living fully. Leave the comments again, reach out to me. I'm happy. So here's law number 1, the law of directional rejection. That means when you get rejected, when people tell you no, when they say it's impossible, you can choose to use it as fuel. You can choose to use it as your why, or you can use it as, oh my God, people are talking about me. This is never going to work. I'm just going to go hide in this corner. I'm just going to do this. It's not for me. Okay, I don't want you to go in that direction. Number 2, the law of showing up, right? People say this all the time. 90% of success is just showing up. It's consistency. You got to show up. That's whether it is in your business, your job, in your health and wellness. You have to show up. By showing up for yourself, that means being responsible for diet, keeping on your diet, keeping on your sleep schedule, whatever is going to make that happen. As far as, just being successful just in life at the things you guys want to do and aspire for, my favorite phrase, volume negates luck. Do something so much that it's almost impossible for you to fail. Okay? And I know that sounds like way out there, but I'm just telling you, if you do that, if you believe in something, just keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it to the point it's literally not reasonable for you to fail. The next is a law of radical responsibility. Remember, you're your own bottleneck. Don't point fingers at other people. Don't do anything. It's not the mayor. It's not the president. It's not the government. It's us. It's the way we perceive ourselves. Do what you can with what you have. You're your own rescue team, but you're also the rescue team for those around you. So be that rescue team for people. Law number 4, the law of your inner voice. And this has this has served me so much. Listen to the experts, take it in, listen to the news, get all this different information. But at the end of the day, trust your own gut. No one knows you like you know yourself. Your intuition needs to be your compass. I'm telling you, this is the way to go. I mean, your real intuition, not your friend's intuition, your intuition. You got to be in a silent place to listen to what you're really trying to tell yourself. Law number 5, biggie, the law of passion. Okay? When people start asking you why you're doing so much, you're in the right place. I'll just leave it right there. Passion is going to lead to success. Number 6, the law of service. When we focus on ourselves, we get tired. When we focus on helping others, It energizes us beyond, like, the amount of energy that's available out there is literally infinite. Focus on your kids, your community, your clients. This is how you're going to recharge yourself, okay? And the law number 7, and the last one, the law of the journey. How many people are listening to this right now and you say this to yourself, I'll be happy when? I'll be happy when I have this much money. I'll be happy when I buy that house. Oh, when I get that car. I'll be happy when I get the promotion. How many things did you already say before that you said were going to make you happy that have already happened, and here we are today, not happy, right? It's about a journey. There is no arrival. There's no finish line. It's about the path. Be happy with the climb. Be passionate. All the things I talked about before. So on that note, this episode ends. Feel free to reach out to me. I love talking to people. Find me on social. Find me, on the comment section below the radio show. Love to talk to people. Reach out. Be well. Be the CEOs of your own healthcare. Don't take no for an answer. Be resilient and fight back. This is Dr. Stefano Sinicropi. This is Recharging the Human Battery Radio. We're on AM 950, and we will see you next week.